Hey guys, welcome back. So this morning when I was in my aerobics class at the gym, my brain had me essentially attending a funeral for what turned out to be someone's tennis lesson. So basically what happened was I was in the middle of my aerobics class and I noticed the person behind me. I was watching in the mirror and she glanced down at her Apple Watch and then she picked up her phone and started quietly talking and ran out of the room. In that few seconds following her running out of the room, because that's not something that typically happens in my aerobics class, people don't run out. In that few seconds after she left, my brain had her getting a terrible, tragic phone call. Someone had died. Maybe it's her husband, maybe one of her children. And then my brain went to what if the grief or the overwhelm causes her to collapse? Because I could see her out the window standing in the parking lot. And then maybe someone's going to have to drive her home. And maybe I'm going to need to help her. And there's going to, like, my brain went so far into worst case scenario, life or death. Meanwhile, my body's still going through the motions of the routine that we're doing in aerobics. And when this woman came back into class, I overheard her tell the instructor, "I'm so sorry for disrupting the class. That was my tennis coach. We had to move my tennis lesson." You guys, my brain was on rapid fire with this basically life or death situation that was going to require her needing assistance and ultimately a funeral happening, all for a tennis lesson. And as I was driving home from the gym, I thought, what a perfect example of how the human brain has evolved. Like, evolution trained the brain to do this. It's so perfect. It's not a bug in the system, it's literally a feature of the human brain to report and predict worst case scenario, life or death situation, even when nothing really tragic or urgent is even happening. And why does it do this? Like, it seems so ridiculous that a brain would do this. Like, it makes no sense logically unless you understand the evolution of the human brain. And then it makes perfect sense because thousands of years ago, the brain needed to detect something like rustling in the leaves, and it needed to immediately report tiger. Now, 9 times out of 10, it's the wind. This is 1,000 years ago, 10,000, 50,000 years ago. It's the wind. But the brain prioritizes safety over truth. The brain prioritizes protection of life and limb over accuracy. It's not concerned with accuracy. It is certainly not concerned with truth. So, thousands of years ago, when there was a rustling in the leaves, the brain needed to report immediately, tiger, run. It didn't want to analyze pros and cons, what was logical, because it's better for the brain to predict tiger and get it wrong. And the worst that's going to happen is you got scared and you're safe. Then for the brain to analyze, scan, get the lay of the land, the read of the room, and predict wind. In case 1 out of 100 times it's a tiger and then it eats you. The brain has to report the worst case scenario first, and then later you can regroup and you can analyze and you can think about it and you can analyze what went right, what went wrong. But in a given moment, the brain has to prioritize safety, even at the risk of completely obliterating any sense of truth or accuracy. This is just how it works, and it's not wrong. It's just that we get to actually understand that the brain is doing this so that we cannot take it so seriously. Now, in the moment, of course, we do because the brain's the stories, the movies the brain projects in the brain are so hypnotic, aren't they? I mean, I was in hook, line, and sinker for those 2 or 3 minutes today in my gym class. But what's on offer here is just noticing that the brain does this. So then after we kind of settle down, we can begin to reflect. We can begin to embody on a much deeper level, noticing, oh, there's the brain doing that thing again. How do I know it's doing that thing again? Because my body's getting in on the action with a racing heart. My body's trying to wake me up. So the mind still works like it worked thousands of years ago. It still wants to predict famine and tigers and all the things that could have like taken you out just like that. Only today, rustling in the leaves don't typically mean you're going to be eaten. And most of us don't need to worry about a famine. So the brain looks for things like, ooh, something's different. And it reports an urgent situation, a life or death, worst case scenario, just because something looks different. Something's not familiar. Now, if I was in a gym class where people ran out all the time for various things, my brain wouldn't have gone to the worst case scenario, but this was different. It wasn't familiar. And when something's not familiar, the brain needs to predict tiger. So it screams at you. It wants to scare you so that you'll take action. Only there's no action to take 9 times out of 10. So what do we do? What do we do about this? The simple answer is we simply understand that's how it works. Because the majority of our suffering around this isn't the fact that the brain tells these really outrageous life or death stories. We suffer because we believe them. We suffer because we take the brain's stories as truth. Because for most of us, myself included, no one's ever even suggested that the things our mind says might be completely false. Now, in case your brain is jumping in, which would be completely normal, and saying, no, but a lot of times there are really big, high stakes, urgent life or death things, and I do need to be on guard. But let me just I don't know, maybe help you reframe that just a tiny bit. So, back in October, I went into my general practitioner for a physical. And while I was there, they wanted to do a baseline EKG. No big deal. I was not the least bit worried because I had no symptoms of any kind of heart related anything. And my EKG came back not just like abnormal, but like very distressing to the doctor. So much so that she told me I needed to go straight to the emergency room. And of course, my mind went to essentially death. Like on my drive from my doctor to the emergency room, my mind had planned my funeral. My mind had planned how I was going to tell my children, how my husband was going to cope. I mean, it went to all the worst case scenarios. Then I had to go to sit in the ER, wait my turn. In the end, my heart was fine. My heart was absolutely perfectly fine. And they determined that the person that did my original EKG had probably misplaced the leads. And it just sent a very false reading. It was fine. Meanwhile, my mind spent hours as I was waiting for the ER doc and waiting for results, truly planning out every detail of how I would die and how my family would cope. Because that's what minds do. So, in the end, when I got the results from the ER and they were like, I don't know what happened, but you literally have a perfectly healthy heart. I was able to come home, regroup, reflect, and really give that adorable, perfect mind of mine all kinds of love and appreciation and compassion because it was doing exactly what it knows how to do. It knows how to sort of freak out. And we suffer when it looks like that is something that we need to change. We suffer when it looks like that is something we're getting wrong, like we're somehow in charge of those stories, and it means something about us as people. That's the suffering. When we can start to just soften a little bit around those stories that come into the brain, and let me tell you, the brain can come up with some doozies, things that you're like, this makes no logical sense. But when we can just settle enough and consider, I'm not the one doing that. I'm not the one constructing these stories. This is just evolution playing out. This is thousands of years in the making, happening in the stage, in my brain, in the movie, in my head. Then the suffering can dissolve. The stories can continue. The mind can still keep doing its thing, reporting catastrophic, worst case, life or death stories. But we don't take them seriously. And if we do take them seriously for a while, then when we do kind of wake up later, when we do have a moment to settle, we give ourselves lots of grace for having a very normal human mind. The suffering in all of this is optional. The fact that you have a human brain, that evolution trained to do this, that doesn't seem optional to me. The brain's going to keep doing what the brain has been doing for thousands and thousands of years. We are not going to train it to do something different or better. Maybe you can, and if you can, great. For the rest of us, it's enough to simply recognize, to notice, to witness, to observe. And then when you have a moment, just give your brain a little little props, like you did great. You did the best you could. And then don't try so hard to change it. The stories, the catastrophic, the life or death stories are not the problem. They're not the source of suffering. The suffering is buying into them, being hypnotized, and then believing that you're the one doing it, and therefore that you're the one that needs to change it. None of that is true. Just be the witness. Take a seat back a little bit further in the theater of your own mind. Watch it. Marvel at it, even. You're more okay than you think. And the best part of this is that if something actually does happen, from this space right here, you will have the resources and the context to handle it beautifully in the moment that it happens, but not 1 minute before. I hope this helps. I wanted to read like four little statements that I typed out that I think are just little nuggets to take away. The brain is designed to detect threat before it detects truth. I'll say that again. The brain is designed, perfectly designed, to detect threat before it detects truth. And your brain would rather scare you unnecessarily than fail to protect you. Alarm is automatic. Suffering is optional. Let's let the brain do what the brain does best. Tell worst case scenarios. Tell life or death stories over things as simple as something looks different in the room. There's a new tiny sensation in the body. The suffering isn't in any of that. We are learning to let the brain do what it does without taking ownership. And now we can take a seat further back, watch it, notice it, not collapse into it, and give it props like, yay, you did a good job, brain. This does begin to settle over time. The suffering does fall away. I hope this resonated, and if it does, then I hope you'll join us in office hours. These are the kind of things we talk about. And if you ever want to reach out for just a little one-on-one discovery session, I welcome that as well. Thanks, guys. Bye.